Hey everybody, welcome to another action-packed, exciting episode of Scotty's Record Shop. This particular episode is brought to you, or was suggested by a comment by one of my loyal viewers who was like, hey, could you do a Van Halen video ranking? Interspersed with I love your videos, blah, 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 blah. Never gets old, people. Love hearing from you. And I don't mind suggestions. If you have somebody that you want me to cover, if I can, I will. If I don't have all of their music and I like them, that just gives me an excuse to buy more CDs. I mean, it doesn't exactly break my heart, right? It's a cool thing. I actually have like maybe 10, 15 groups, artists, whatever, already like in my head set to go. I have all of their discographies. There's a couple of artists that I actually am probably going to do like a top 10 or something because they have such a huge discography. A couple of examples. One for certain that I'm going to eventually do is Van Morrison. Van Morrison has over 40 albums, and I honestly, I have an era, period for the most part. I mean, I like his late 60s, some of his 70s stuff, and a little bit of the 80s stuff. So that would be good for a top 10, you know. Another one I've just recently thought about is maybe doing an Alice Cooper. He's got what, 30 albums now between solo and group, like 30 albums now with the release of the last album last year. I don't have them all, and I honestly don't have the desire to get all of them because I'm not that big of an Alice Cooper fan. I do like Alice Cooper, but I'm tempted to do a top 10 of my favorite Alice Cooper too. Lots of different things coming up. So if you've got something you want to hear, or something you want to hear, I'm on the radio. I'm sorry, I work on the radio, and it's like, thank you for listening, and my loyal listeners and all this other crap. No, I'm doing a video now, Scott. So, okay, Van Halen. There's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 albums here. Studio albums, of course. And plus an extra thing I'm going to show you that I recommend you kind of get. Even though it's kind of not an official release. We'll get to that. I don't know if there's any hot takes in this or not, you know. Remember, these are my opinions. And your opinions are important too, and they matter, and put them down there. I watch those. I watch those. I read those opinions. I look at that stuff. I still got to catch up on some of your comments from the last, from the Bruce Springsteen video that I made last week. I still got a couple of comments that I got to get to, but I will get to you guys, I promise. Comment, okay? Let me know, like, all that usual stuff. All right, so at the bottom of the pile is not going to be anything any of you will argue with, probably, because it's at everybody's bottom, which is really too bad, but it does deserve to be there. Van Halen 3. Gary Sharon, you know, from Extreme, lead singer. He's a great singer. Extreme's a really good band. And honestly, if the songs were right for him, it would have worked. But the songs on this just were not there. The other thing about this is lesson learned, hopefully. Not that it's going to happen now, but never let Eddie sing. Don't let Eddie sing. I don't care if it's his studio and it's his name on the album. Don't let Eddie sing. Bottom. Van Halen 3. Maybe that pisses some people off. There's a couple of decent songs on here, but still. This one, I remember when this came out, bought it, and was disappointed. It was what it was. The lowest of all the David Lee Roth era, Diver Down from '82. They were tired, and it was quite obvious. I mean, there's some good songs on here. I mean, I don't even mind their cover of "Oh Pretty Woman," you know. The intro to that is kind of strange, and I just don't really, I don't dig it. But you know, they got a couple singles off this, but they were both covers, and it just they were tired. They needed their own studio, which they were going to get, right, 5150, and it was going to make a huge difference. And we'll get to that album in a while. Okay, okay. So um, at 11, right, 11, we have Diver Down. This one, a lot of people I know rank this album a little higher than I'm going to, and I'm going to explain why I don't rank it higher. Okay, and I'm going to show you something too, kind of give you a recommendation. Okay, different kind of truth. The last album, um, you think you got Diamond Dave back here, even though his voice isn't quite as good as it used to be. You got Wolfgang, right, playing on this. Eddie's son's the bass player, taking over from Michael Anthony. A few things really taint this album for me, and I try not to let it taint it. But I was so aggravated by the way they treated Michael Anthony, and I, I can I try my best to separate the brilliance of Eddie and Alex from the fact that they're assholes. Sorry, but the way they treated Michael Anthony was horrible. They were Michael Anthony is a decent bass player, and if you've ever seen him play live, he's a decent bass player, and he just made the mistake of being friends with Sammy Hagar, and they hated Sammy, so they kind of screwed him. Short version, they took his rights to the name. They treated him horrible. All he wanted to do was play again with these guys. I would have told him to shove it personally. With you gotta give up your right to all of the music. You got to do this, and then you can play with us. Like, screw you, you know. He had a good thing going with Sammy anyway, and he's still got a good thing going with Sammy. Really, Sammy's taking good care of him, and he's a nice guy, you know. So that kind of unfortunately taints this for me. Wolfgang's really talented. He's a nice kid, great musician. The albums that he's put out, even though it's not really my kind of music per se, they're good for what they are. The kid played everything on them. Super talented kid. The other thing too is this is all leftovers. All leftovers. They didn't, it kind of goes with Sammy kind of bashing Eddie's, going his work ethics kind of suck. Well, yeah, kind of, because he just kind of dredged up a lot of old unreleased stuff. And for people who have never heard any of the original demos from the 70s and these original songs would go, oh, this is great. But the Warner Brothers demos, that's all, folks. A double album. Also, you could find the Gene Simmons demos, which is a lot shorter. But I like that. This is a little more refined. Songs that you know and love on here. Songs that would become other songs. Songs that would end up reworked and on here. However, much better on here because this is Van Halen when they were young, when they were badass. These were done in 77, I think. These Warner Brothers demos. They just went in and pounded them out. Yes, it's not as pristine as when Ted Templeton got a hold of them and kind of helped them shape the sound a little more, but the songs are there. So, if you think this is great, God love you. I have a friend of mine who, when this came out, absolutely loved it. Van Halen is back. And I was like, you need to listen to this, buddy. You need to listen to this. So anyway, that's where this is 10, I believe, right? 10. For a different kind of truth. But like I said, hunt down, it doesn't even have to be called this, but the Warner Brothers demos. Okay? Okay. Mid-80s, Van Halen is back. They've got Sammy Hagar. I'm going to be really honest with you. This may be a hot take comment, but I like Sammy Hagar. I saw Sammy right before he joined Van Halen in '85. Yeah, '84, '85. Still in high school at the time. And the VOA album with "I Can't Drive 55," even though I don't like that song, the tour kicked ass. It was them, had Dawkins opening up for them. It was just a great, great show. Like Sammy a lot, like Van Halen a lot. And then I vividly remember, and I'm jumping ahead. Actually, you know what? I am going to switch these. I don't usually do that, but these are almost interchangeable albums for me. So we're going to get a new Van Halen song out here. And it was weird. Um, I remember this day just so plainly because it was a horrible, tragic day. The day that I first heard the new version of Van Halen was actually the day that the space shuttle blew up in '86, and I was in New Hampshire at the time. Lived in New Hampshire with my first wife, and of course you had Kristen McAuliffe, who was from New Hampshire, so it was being broadcast live. All the kids in New Hampshire were watching this thing live in their classrooms. I was watching it live at the house with the wife, and the damn thing blew up. And it was like, oh my God, this is so horrible. And then it was like, um, I'm trying to think of the AEF or whatever it is in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, the radio station there. It's like, and now here's the brand new song from Van Halen. Why can't it be love? I was like, what is this shit? I mean, I tolerated the jump and stuff, the keyboards, because it still was tough. You know, it still was. It was keyboards, but it had a little bit of balls, and so here we are, 5150. We can really talk about these two at the same time in OU812 because they're kind of interchangeable for me. Now, after that introduction, you'll think I hate these albums. I don't hate these albums, and I can even tolerate Why Can't This Be Love. Now, there is much better songs on here, and they still do rock, although I cannot stand the drum sound, and I don't like the keyboard sounds on these. I really even on this one, you know. It was the issue of the disappointment. I was expecting something really ripping. Because you had Sammy Hagar who could rip, and you had Van Halen who could rip, and then they put out this cheesy pop, happy pop thing, which was a huge success. These two albums sold big time. And you know, like I said, in hindsight, yeah, it was a little hard. Especially on this one. I would not buy this when it first came out. I was pissed. And people I was friends with at the time were like, you know, it's really not that bad of an album, Scott. You really got to give it a chance. And yeah, there's a couple of really cheesy ballads and stuff, but you got to give it a chance. There's some good rock and roll on here. I was like, nah, I can't do this. Finally, I did, and yes, all right, they're not bad. You know, they're in the middle here. You know, so they're not that bad. So anyway. We'll go with this one first at 9. We'll go with 9 here with 5150. By the way, obviously, all you Van Halen people know it's named after the studio, right? Right. That Eddie built. And then OU812. Okay. From 88, 86, 88. Okay. Okay. So. Moving onward and upwards, these next two albums I like more. They're Sam Hagar era, but they just rocked more. It seemed that way for me. Although this cover is a little weird. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Balance. I don't mind this album. I think it rocks out a little more. Not as successful as some of their earlier Hagar stuff because they just kind of rocked out a little more, you know, a little bit more. So, not a hell of a lot to say about this. Again, like I said, the cover is a little questionable, weird. Okay, whatever, you know. But the music inside is pretty damn good. Again, in the middle here, but I do pull this out. and check it out once in a while, and it's good. And I went through most of these to re-listen to them again. There was a few that I didn't have to because it's just like my favorite. My favorite Van Halen album is my favorite Van Halen album. Yeah, it always will be, and we're obviously going to get to that later. But here we are with Balance. Next one. Um, this album rocks pretty good, but I'll be honest with you. There's a song on here. We're talking about For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, or otherwise known as. Anyway, I sometimes records or songs come out at a time. They connect with the time in your life, and so they have a special meaning. And the song right now off of this, other than the fact that it's a great friggin' song, came out at a time which I'm not going to get into my personal life, but it was appropriate, and it was really inspirational for me. It was a really like, yeah, kind of, let's get with it. Let's change our life. Let's right now. Not tomorrow, not 3 weeks from now. Let's make some changes. Let's do it now. And so it was kind of really cool because I was going through that in my life, kind of cleaning my life up a little bit. Pound Cake's a great song. That's another thing that got played. This album is a pretty heavy album, overall. This and Balance kind of fit together for me. So next on my list, 3, 4, 5, at number 6, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge. Okay. From here out, it's David Lee Roth. I'm sorry for those of you who prefer the Sammy Hagar stuff. These are part of my childhood, and they're just, this is the way it is. Let me make sure of that. Yeah. Yeah. All David Lee Roth. Fair warning. A dark album. This is dark. And Eddie said he was going through he was really angry, which was really weird because this was really when he was connecting, and I think this is about the time that he married Valerie Bertinelli. How could you be angry when you have that? What is going on in your life, boy? Most of us guys would have been like tickled pink to have Valerie, but he had some issues, probably related to substance. He said it was a very dark time in his life, and it's reflected in this. But this has got some kick-ass, great stuff, on it. Again, a heavy album. For Van Halen, it's dark. I mean, it's not like doom metal dark, but it's dark for Van Halen, and listening to it, you can appreciate when Eddie said he was going through a dark time. It's reflected, but it works on here, even though I'm sorry the guy was going through it at the time. We dug it when it came out. Not my favorite album, but it's a great friggin' album. Great album. So at number 5, Fair Warning, from 1981. Got that when it came out. Got all of these when they came out. Women and Children First. I almost, and I still want to, but I'm not going to. I've already switched one thing out. I almost want to switch the next two. But we're gonna keep it this way. Another great album. Really implementing some more acousticy, bluesy type kind of, like with Women and Children First, obviously. Eddie on slide, and supposedly Eddie had never really played slide before. I know he's brilliant, but he did some brilliant slide work on that. In my brain, I can't he just picked up a slide and just started playing. It's like, oh, I could do this. Okay. I mean, I know you're great, but supposedly that's what happened. I don't know how true it is. It doesn't matter. Great stuff. Take Your Whiskey Home. We're still in that early. The first 3 albums I feel really are in kind of connected. They kind of have the same vibe to me. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe I'm alone in that. Let me know in the comments. Do you feel that same way too? The first three albums just kind of seem interconnected. With Fair Warning, again, not in a bad way or anything, but it kind of was a little different. Maybe not. Maybe the first four, but I really feel like the first three were kind of connected. But love this album when it came out. Got a lot of airplay. 3 4 things on here got played on our rock station around here up in Maine. Um, like I said, shortly after this came out, um, this was the second Van Halen album. I know that they're on. This is number 3, but this was the second Van Halen album that I bought when it came out, or right about the time that it came out. So, and I'll explain that um, down the road. But at number 4, we have Women and Children First. Okay. Almost put this one before Women and Children First, but I think that there's a sentimental value to this. We're talking about 1984. This is a great album. The real first venture into Eddie venturing into keyboards. But I still think, although like I'll Wait and Jump are pop songs, I mean, they still have a sense of toughness to them. They just do. Unlike, like I said, the later stuff kind of they kind of went more into the pop vein, and kind of it wasn't, why can't this be love? And I don't mean to keep picking on that song. It just is not tough. It's a pop song. It's a good pop song, and it sold a lot of records, and I'm glad for them. But I still think Jump is kind of just tougher in a way. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. I mean, I literally, still in my head, remember walking to my local mall to buy, well, not the CD, but the actual album right after it came out. I heard Jump, and at first I was like, what the hell? And then I was like, I like it. And, Hot for Teacher, Panama, I mean, these are all classic things. And there's stuff on here that doesn't get played that's just as good. Again, I think I could have almost switched these two around, but again, I'm going to put this at number 3 because sentimental. It was just smack dab in the middle of high school. Funny, I'm gonna not even mention names to protect the guilty. I had an algebra teacher who was a young guy, not as young as us, obviously, but he decided he was going to bring a bunch of students to Boston to see this tour, and it was Van Halen and the band Autograph opening up for them. And stupid ass me was like, nah, I don't really want to go. I don't know why. I love Van Halen. I like this album a lot. And he's like, you want to go, Scott? We'll get you the tickets. And he loaded a bunch of high school kids into a van, and I'm talking a bunch. And let's just say they had a really good time going down to Boston, in Boston, and coming back. Thank God they made it back alive. Probably some laws were broken, providing the minors and alcohol to minors and transporting minors over the state. Kind of a lot of really, but they had a hell of a time. And I wish they would have went now, but I didn't. My only regret about this one, but great album. Anyway, at number 3, 1984, which actually came out in 1983, the end of 1983. Just saying. Okay, hot take. This will be the hot take of the day, even though it's at number 2. Understand that I love both of these albums, but okay, where we're going now. The first Van Halen album. I know, gasp, everybody, like, start typing, you idiot. Look, still a great friggin' album. An amazing album, groundbreaking album. Love this album. Heard some stuff off of this on the radio. Not a lot of it, though. This did not get a lot of airplay up here in Maine, believe it or not. It got some. They played up here in Maine with opening for Black Sabbath, and they destroyed Black Sabbath. Know a lot of people that went to that show in '78. They destroyed Black Sabbath. Ozzy was so shit faced he didn't even know where he was, and Van Halen just came out and just ate them for lunch. Plain and simple. I mean, people walked out during Black Sabbath. Some of my friends walked out during Black Sabbath because it was just like, we saw what we needed to see. We're going out to buy the new Van Halen album. But I wasn't on that train. I don't know why. Thought it was good. Didn't hear this album in full until '79. I'll get to that. But at number 2, my apologies to some of you, Van Halen's first album, Atomic Punk. If I never hear Running with the Devil again, I'm okay with that. Atomic Punk or Jamie's Crying. It's like, all right, good songs, but now it's like you don't have to play it anymore. Okay, Atomic Punk. Did I say Atomic Punk? That song just freaking just. Oh, it's a great song. Anyway, Van Halen's first album at number 2. All right, number 1. Yes, I'm sorry to upset some of you. Van Halen 2. This was the first Van Halen album that I got. And to this day, I still think, I know, I'm sorry, I think that this is a better album than this. I just love this album. I just completely love this album. On the Warner Brothers demos, some of that stuff on here, just like on the first album, I feel the same way too. They upped the game. Ted Templeton took those songs that were on here, and when they appeared on here, just friggin' knocked them out of the park. This, DOA, Somebody Get Me a Doctor, even You're No Good. It's a weird way to start this album, but it's such a dramatic departure from the original version that you almost don't even recognize it. You have to listen to the words to realize, oh, okay, that's what this song is. Obviously, Dance the Night Away. Some people would never want to hear that song again. But I love it. I think it's a great friggin' song. I still don't mind hearing it. Woman in Love, I think it's absolutely beautiful. It was a great ballad, like a power ballad. No keyboards necessary here, kids. Great chord progressions. Like I said, just a freaking great album. Had this on cassette first, got it from Columbia House. I think it was actually an accident where, how if you don't send the card in on time, they're going to send you the next album of the month. And this showed up at the door, and I was like, okay, I'm cool with this. And I listened to it and I went, whoa, you know what? We're going to go back out and buy this. So that's how that happened. I listened to this and went, okay, these guys are not a joke. They're not fooling around. This is great shit. I've kind of ignored the first album. I'm going to go out and get it. And, of course, at the time, this was before, like, Jamie's Crying and Running with the Devil and, You Really Got Me. And, there's a ton of this that just is overplayed now on the radio. But at the time, it wasn't being overplayed. So it was just like, yeah. Great stuff. Alrighty. So my number 1 of all the Van Halen albums, Van Halen 2. Again, let me know in the comments what you think. I love hearing from you guys. If you have a suggestion about an artist or a group that you would like me to do, just like my loyal listener, and I did that on purpose, my loyal viewer, who comments on just about every video, thank you, said, could you do Van Halen? And no problem. I actually was planning on doing that soon. Again, I may not do everything. I mean, if you're like Neil Young, I'm not a huge Neil Young fan. I've mentioned that in videos before. I don't mind Neil Young. I got probably 10 or 15 Neil Young CDs. Downstairs, I probably got 10 or 15 Neil Young albums that I bought originally, but he's got so many albums out. It's like, I'm going into people that I don't really care for. Foo Fighters, don't ask for Foo Fighters. You can put up a Foo Fighters one if you want to. Um, but there's a lot of things coming up. Different things like the Moody Blues. Um, um, like I said, I'm going to eventually do a top 10 of Alice Cooper. I'm thinking about doing a top 10 eventually of Motorhead. I love Motorhead. Been listening to Motorhead a lot lately. Um, and I don't have everything by Motorhead, and I don't necessarily want to get everything by Motorhead, but I certainly have the albums that I love by Motorhead. All kinds of stuff. And there'll be other weird things too, like I'm going to do an ABBA ranking. I know that that's tough for some people that maybe, you know, but my taste in music are kind of all over the place. So there may be maybe an Earth, Wind, and Fire. I love Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I've got a shit ton of their albums. So we'll find out. I don't even know what's coming up next week, so stay tuned. We'll deal with it. Like, subscribe. By the way, thank you to I think we got a couple of new subscribers over the last video. Thank you so much for subscribing. I do appreciate, and I mean this, I say it every video, each and every one of you. I really sincerely do. Okay, like, subscribe, share, blah, 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 blah. Until next week, everybody, peace and love.